We are back on the Rational Boomer podcast. And by the time you hear this, it'll be Sunday, but I'm recording this on Friday night. And this is a much awaited show. This guest we have on has been on many times before, but this particular time, people were particularly interested. Of course, we've got Old Soul with us. And I'm just glad to see you out in public based on your experience recently.
Yeah, I was in public like as soon as they released me that next day. In fact, I think I was like early in the morning because um, I was telling you about those restricted zones and stuff like that. And I had seen that they removed ICE from the restricted zones and put LAPD in those zones. So yeah,
Well, from listening to my TikToks and the podcast that um, Old Soul found herself right in the middle of the Los Angeles stuff, of course. Of course, she was there, and she ended up getting detained. So, Old Soul, I want you to tell everybody's asking me, what's the whole story? I don't know the whole story. So, tell us what happened when you got there, what was going on, and how you ended up where you ended up.
yeah, it was weird. Like I don't want to say it's weird, but it's just kind of like a setup, right? So they have so I'm coming from Vegas and I was picking up some women that, needed some help. And so I was going to pick them up and I was like gonna pick them up and then stop and get gas. And then I said, well, they're pregnant, so I probably want to stop and get gas first. And so I went to get gas and I'm at the gas station and I'm walked in like, hey, I need to pay for my gas. But before I can get there, there's like ICE agents that's like coming from like the side of the store. But the thing about it is the gas station was open, it wasn't closed. They just came from the side of the building. And then they were saying, this is a restricted zone. Restricted zones has a 6 p.m. curfew. You're not supposed to be here. And then I was like, well, I'm just getting gas. As soon as I get gas, I'll leave. And they were like, okay, where's your ID? Show me this, show me that. But these are actual like ICE agents. Like you can see like their badges and everything. It's not like the Pillsbury Doughboy ones that you see on television. Like these were actually ICE agents. I'm like, okay. So I showed them my ID and I was like, and as you can see, I'm from Nevada. I'm not from here. So I don't know anything about your restricted zones or anything. And I was like, and then where's the signs to let me know that I'm in a restricted zone anyway? And then they were just like, I gave them my driver's license. And then I also gave them my real ID because I know that you're supposed to be showing them real ID now. And here's the crazy part about it, they thought the real ID was fake. So they're not even being trained on this ID that they're making people carry around. They think that it's a fake ID. So they're like, you're in a restricted zone, you're past the curfew inside the restricted zone, and you have a fake ID. And so then they were like, yeah, we have to detain you until we figure out who you are, some crazy crap like that. And I was like, are you serious? And they were like, yeah. And then the next thing that they were trying to do was get my car towed. But the the cashier in the store, they were like, yeah, so her car is going to be left here. This is private property. We can have it towed for you if you would like. And she's like, no, you don't have to have it towed. She could leave it there. And they're like, well, where's your manager? Where's your supervisor? Like they were like giving her a hard time. So she goes, she gets the phone, she calls her manager, she comes outside, and the manager's like, no, whoever that person is, their car can stay there. It'll be safe here. Like they were pissed off that they didn't give them permission to tow my car from the store. And then the next thing I know is like in the back of like my children, like here they call them a kidnapping van. Like it was like a regular van, and it was just like other people in the back of the van. And then they took us to the detention center, and that's where I was. And when I say that detention center is like, I don't know, that's not an American prison or any place in America that I've ever seen them keep people. Like you are literally in a building. There's just like a bunch of people everywhere, and you are just in the building. There's no sunlight, there's no windows, you don't know what time it is. They have a what do you call it, like a water cooler? They have a couple of those like scattered out, and that's it. They might feed you, they might not feed you. There's like old people in there who can't get their medication. There's other people like, hey, I need this, I need that. They're like, we'll figure it out, sit back down, and that's it. But what I will say is inside the detention center, those are not like the ICE agents that picked me up. Those are like Barney Fifes and the ones that you see on television. We're like, those not even ICE agents. Like those are the ones that's inside of the detention center.
Okay,
And they,
I want to get to the conditions inside, but I want to first just make clear what we do. You were in
yeah,
your car getting
yeah,
gas. Were you
yeah,
alone at the time? You were alone
yeah,
at the time.
by myself.
And they said you were in a restricted zone.
And a
And you
restricted
should,
zone has curfew.
well, if you're in a restricted zone and nobody can be there, why do you have a cashier at the gas station? That makes no sense. You can't come
Yeah,
here, but we got to put a cashier on payroll.
that's what I said. It was like a setup. You know what I mean? Because I'm walking to pay for my gas, and they come from the sides of the buildings. And then even with the cashiers, thought like, if you see something like that, you're kind of surprised and you're trying to like ask questions. She wasn't doing any of that. She wasn't surprised at all. Like, oh, here they go again. Pretty much like that was kind of like her attitude. And I was just like, oh yeah, it was a setup. You know what I mean? And it's like, and there's no signs or anything that tells you this is a restricted zone. You cannot be here in this restricted zone. There's nothing there. Like you don't know you're in a restricted zone until you walk into a restricted zone. I thought it was just me, but I did see earlier today, Kelsey sent me this video. There was a Black girl and she was walking home and they were telling her this is a restricted zone. And she was like, I know, but that's my apartment complex. Like I live right there. And they shot her in the stomach with one of those pellet bullets or whatever they shoot them
Oh,
with.
well, the rubber
Um,
bullets. Yeah.
those rubber bullets. I mean, they just like right in front of her, point blank, shot her in her stomach. And the restricted zone was in front of her apartment. So there was no way she can get to her apartment without going through the restricted zone. So I know it's not just me, the only person that's getting caught up in these restricted zone traps, but at least I didn't get shot with, like that was crazy. But yeah, they're setting people up with those restricted zones. How you know it's a
So,
restricted zone when you get there?
yeah, so when they come up to you, I get the impression that this isn't like a real police stop or anything like this. It looks like they're going to take you in regardless. It's just kind of a bum rush. They're trying to
Yeah,
figure out a way, anything they can do to make you get hooked up and sent away in the car.
yeah,
You have a real ID, but they aren't aware enough to know what a real ID looks like, so they think it's fake. But it's pretty
right.
clear you're an American citizen, and they
Yeah,
didn't seem to mind. That didn't bother them in the least.
I have my driver's license, my real ID. The addresses match on there. They could have asked me for my insurance information, and all of that would have matched up. It wasn't about that. It was like no matter what you did, you were supposed to get in the back of that van. Period. That's just what it was with them.
What was the ride over like? You get in the van and they take you to the detention center.
Yeah, I was just kind of like quiet and watching everybody in the van. You know what I mean? And
Oh,
they
there
were
were
like,
other people in the van. They were
"Yeah,
loading that fucker up.
you're not in there by yourself." No. And then, so when they come and they get you, it's not like the van is just sitting there, right? Because if I would have seen a van like that just sitting at night, I wouldn't have stopped there, but there's no van there. So they come, and when they get you, then the van comes like around the corner. So when I got in the van, there was already people inside the van. So they're just was rounding us up, I guess.
How were they acting? The people in the van.
They were they were like, I don't want to say freaking out, but they were just, you could just kind of like feel the tension in the air. Like there was a woman and she was like crying, but she wasn't like boohoo crying. You could just like, her face was just wet. You could just like see her hands was like shaking like crazy. People were like, they just weren't talking. Nobody was saying anything. We're just kind of like sitting in there. You know what I mean? Because you don't know what's going to happen next. And then you're in this situation where you really are caught off guard. It's like, I wasn't expecting to stop and get gas and get detained by ICE. And even if I did, I have ID and everything. And it's like that's what I would think that. I don't know. I was just caught off guard. I didn't know what to say. You couldn't like scream or kick the inside of the van. Like what were you supposed to do? We were just sitting in the back of the van together until they dropped us off. The only
They
good thing
didn't.
is I was the last person to get in the van because it'd been kind of hard to watch them put somebody else in the back of that van. After they picked me
Yeah.
up, then they went and they dropped us off. So that was the good
What
thing about it.
was everybody in the van mostly immigrants, or were there other American citizens in there?
There was like two citizens in there, and everybody else, they seem like they were immigrants, but I don't know what their status is.
Yeah, who knows?
A lot of the people, they have visas, they have green cards. So they are here legally, but at the same time, they're being rounded up with everybody else who is here. I guess you would say an illegal immigrant. So whether you have a visa or a green card, it doesn't matter. You're an immigrant, so you get rounded up with everybody else. So yeah, it doesn't matter if you have a green card or a visa. You get rounded up with everybody else. I think the only reason I got out of there is because like I was literally like born here. That's pretty much the only reason why I was able to go.
Did you get the sense that the people who picked you up, the ICE agents, did they
Mhm.
seem like legitimate government employees, or did they seem like they were some other fucks like Proud Boys that they pulled into the mix?
The ones that picked me up, they were legitimate. The ones that was actually like inside the detention center, they were not. And you can
Okay.
see some of them like on their arms right here, on their necks and stuff, they have white supremacist tattoos on them visibly. So I think like when you see them and they have like their mouths covered up right here and their neck is covered up, I think they could be hiding those tattoos. Like they're hiding their identity, but they're also hiding like visible tattoos on them. But when you're
Okay.
inside the detention center, you know what I mean? And they're like, they don't have their mask and stuff on, you can see visual white supremacist tattoos like on them. You can see that. And so that was another indication that, oh yeah, these not the real ICE agents. They just working in here.
So when they get you to the ICE detention center, and as I understand it, you did get detained in the ICE detention center, the main one where all the protesters going around. Was there any kind of processing when they brought you in, or did they just throw you in a room?
One thing they kept asking, like, I had like my purse with me, and they were like, "Where's your cell phone?" I was like, "It's in my purse." And they were like, "Well, you need to unlock it." I was like, "I'm not unlocking my cell phone for you for what?" And then I was like, "So where's my phone call?" And they were like, "Well, you're detained. You're not being questioned. You're not being arrested. You're being detained. So because you're detained, you don't get a phone call." And so I was kind of like a smartass about it when they asked me uh, to unlock my phone. I was like, I'm being detained. So you need a warrant to get my cell phone. Like they
What
wanted
did
me
they
to
say?
unlock my phone. And that was one thing that they kept telling everybody, like, unlock your phone. Where's your cell phone? Like that was like the number one thing, which is so weird, is that they really, really wanted you to just unlock your phone for them. It was
Well,
just like the weirdest thing.
they didn't have anything on you, so they were going to try to find any little thing they could exploit. And they probably knew they couldn't ask you to unlock your phone, but they thought they would try to intimidate you to do it. And some people would say, "Yeah, I'll do anything." But not Old Soul. Old Soul said, "Fuck yourself," and that was the right thing to do. Did they do anything, in terms of physical intimidation to try to get the phone or anything else?
No, nothing like that. They do a regular like strip search type of thing, I guess, when you would go into prison. But there was one thing, and this is the crazy part about it. Like
You were strip, you were strip
when
searched.
yeah, they put you in a
Holy
room
fuck!
with other women, and there's a wall. You have to take all your clothes off. They check you. They check your clothes, like your pockets and all that stuff, and then you put those same clothes back on. So there's like no jail uniform or slides or anything like that. You just put your right, like after they check you, they check your clothes. Anything like personal of yours, they just kind of like bag it and they take it to wherever they take it to, and then you put your regular clothes back on, and then you're just in there. But when I was
How
reading,
can they strip search you if you're not arrested? You're just detained. They don't
I don't know.
question you.
This
They
is
detain
something.
you. This is ridiculous.
Here's the thing, though. When they let like us go, like the Americans, when they let us go, they knew when I told them because they will come in there and they will tell like certain girls or certain women, like, what is that? What like you could just be sitting there, just talking or whatever. You're just sitting there, and they will come in there and they'll be like, "What is that? What is that?" And you're looking at them like, "What is that?" And they'll be like, "You have something on you. You have something on you." And they would take those girls and they would like check them all over again because they want to make sure they don't have anything on them that they're not supposed to have on them. And they were doing that like multiple women were getting checked like that. Like they were just doing it to multiple people. And I'm like, okay, I see that they're not doing it to any like American women. There's like some of us in there, but the rest of the women, they were just like picking them, taking them in there, checking them, telling them they had something on them that they weren't supposed to have on them, and they were just checking them repeatedly, checking them, which was
So
insane. Like, why are you
so
coming in here
that's
getting them and checking them again? Like they were doing that to certain women and girls. They was just like picking on them, making them do that. It's,
that sounds like intentional abuse, maybe even to the point of rape.
I will tell you that when I told them that, they were not surprised because like when we left, they like came, they gave us our stuff, and then they put us in a van, and then they took us to another place, and then once we got to that other place, like the detectives and like whoever the people in Congress or whatever were, they like separated us like real quick. They just separated us, and then they started like I was being questioned, so I assumed that everybody else that got released was being questioned too, and they were not surprised when I told them about those strip searches. Like they were not surprised at all. And then when I left, one of the women, I was like, "Did you talk to them about like them bringing girls out and getting checked?" And she was just like, "Yeah." I was like, "Were they surprised?" She was like, "I don't know. I was just telling them what they were asking me." She's like, "But I'm pretty sure they knew that." I have a feeling that they know that's what's going on in there. And it's kind of crazy because I didn't even find out like that Congress people were trying to get in there and they were just being told no. I didn't find that out until I talked to my brother later on. He was like, why the F can't they just go in there? They're peoples of Congress. They whatever, they need to be going in there. And I just tell them like, nope, you can't get in here. That's it. And they just wait for us to get released and then they just interrogate the hell out of us instead of like trying to get into the building, which is crazy that they're being told they can't get in there. I
Has to
don't
be
know
a
how.
weird feeling. That has to be a weird feeling for you because you're sitting in there. We've heard these stories about these things, but when you're sitting in there, these people walking around and
Yeah.
saying, "It looks like you got something. Come up. We're going to strip search you again," or
Yeah.
whatever they're going to do. I mean,
Hmm.
this sounds like something out of a movie with the Nazis or some other authoritarian. I mean, it's not even, oh, it could get there. It was that when you were there. I mean, it
That's
was as bad as it could be under an authoritarian rule.
that's exactly what it was. And like I didn't know like that the like people like Congress people were trying to get in that building. I didn't know that the mayor was like making requests trying to get in there and that ICE kept telling her no. And so I just figured like, okay, so maybe it's because they're under like federal jurisdiction and that's like more of a priority than it is for like state officials. Maybe that's why they are allowed to tell them no. I didn't even know that they were trying to get in there until, I talked to my brother later and he was like, yeah, I don't see why they can't just go up in there and see what the hell is going on. But the stuff that we were telling them, I'm pretty sure other people who were released were telling them the same thing. Like, there's no way that they don't know what's going on in there. And then they tried to, I guess they would like strongly suggest that you don't tell people that type of stuff because she was like, well, certain things, if you say it online or whatever, you'll be attacked by MAGA. You have to think about your family and your safety and all that stuff. And I just looked at her, I was like, yeah, so as soon as I get out of here, I'm gonna start talking. So I did promise her, I was like, I won't mention like the names of like the Congress people in there and stuff like that. So I won't give anybody your names. But what happened in there, I am going to talk about it. But I can see why people don't want to say anything because I think that people would get attacked for saying what's going on in there, or maybe people will say that they're lying, or I think people just want to get out and just like keep it pushing. But it's not good to be up in there. Like they don't feed you like how normally in prison you have like your morning meal and then your afternoon meal and commissary or whatever. You don't have none of that in there. You have a water jug in there. And if they feed you, they feed you. If they don't, then you just don't eat that day. And then the water jugs, I used to drink out of water hoses when we were children because we didn't want to like go
Yeah.
inside because we thought that our grandmother would make us stay in there. So we would drink water out the water hoses. That's like tap water. So it's not like they having sparkling water like put in there. That's like regular old tap water that's in there. It's not plugged up. It's not cold or anything. It's just water in there. That's just it. That's what you have. Um, like the people that need a medication and stuff, they don't even get medication. They just in there. It's just crazy, but they're just in there.
Like a fucking gulag in the United States of America, and this gulag is being hosted by the U.S. government. That's fucking appalling. How long were you in there? How many hours, how many days were you in there?
I went in there. I can't remember because like there's no light in there. Like there's
I
no
think it was 2 days, two and
yeah.
a
It was,
half days, something like that.
like 2 days or something like that. But it's not like you can see like the sun coming up and going down in a day. There's no clocks in there or anything. Like when I tell you like you are in there, you're in there. It's just like a bunch of people in a building. That's it. I saw this picture of the National Guards. You see how they were just like in there, like laying on the floor and stuff.
Yeah.
That's how it was, except for we didn't have like packs or anything that we could use for pillows. Like if you would take your shirt off or something like that and try to make a pillow out of it, that kind of thing. But you're just in there. Like wherever you sleep, that's where you sleep. Like you are just think about that picture and you see them all just like scattered and laying on the floor. That's how it is, except for there's like more people in there. And you're just people in a building. Like you are literally just people in a building. That's it. That's all.
But the thing
They
about
come
it
in,
is
go, and
people need to understand this because this is America. You
yeah,
are stuck in
feel
this
like
prison situation for 2 days, and you were born and raised in America. This is
yeah,
either egregious on the part of the Republican Party or the government, or just absolutely ignorant. Um, so when you got out, I know I was texting back and forth with your brother. We thought you'd get out earlier. Um, the being in a restricted zone, they dropped the charges on that, so they were supposed to let you go immediately, and then they said they couldn't let you go immediately because of all the protesters. They were slow walking this thing. Eventually, would they move you from the detention center to someplace else and then released you? Is that what happened?
yeah. So they took us from the detention center. They put us in the back of a transport van. Now the transport van actually had like identifying on there, like this is LAPD, so it's like a regular police transport van. We knew what that was, and then they take us, and then they are. It's not like the police station. It's like I guess you would say maybe like a congressional office or something. And then they separated us, and each one of us was like in a different office, and we were just answering questions. That was just like it. But before, only my brother could do this, but before I can get into the building, he had because they were like texting, like, your family or whatever. They were like, hey, do you have a phone number that we can contact? And you give them your contacts information. And they were reaching out to your contacts, letting them know where to pick you up from. And so when we got there, my brother's friend was like just now pulling up because my brother called him and said, hey, this is the address. This is where you need to go get her. And he came and they were like trying to keep him back. And they're like, well, we have to ask some questions and that type of stuff. And he was like, look, I know you got to do what you got to do, but can you please let this woman talk to her brother? He was like, because her brother and her daughter are losing their shit. And so they was like, okay, you could talk for like 5 minutes. And so I took the phone. I was talking to my brother for a minute. And then they were like, all right, we got to go. We got questions we got to ask. And they just started asking us questions. I'm pretty sure I could have just said, I don't want to answer your questions. And maybe I could have left, but I didn't. I guess I could have did it legally, but at the same time, I still didn't feel like I'm safe to leave yet. Like I still need to do what they tell me to do type thing. So I just went and answered their questions. I kind of like got into maybe like a little bit of an argument with my brother because I was there picking up some women, and then I was like, so where are they? What happened to them? He was like, I don't know what the hell you're talking about. I don't even know why you took your ass down there. So I was just telling him, what the situation was. And I was like, he was like, you need to get in that van. He's like, once you're done, you need to just like get in the car and you need to come back to Vegas. That's it. That's all. I was like, well, I'm not leaving unless I got those women with me. So I don't know what it's going to be. So I gave his friend the information that I had. And then that's when I left. And then I guess my brother was like, look, you need to find out whoever these people is, and then that way you ain't got to deal with that when she come up out of there. And that was like pretty much it. So he was happy to hear me, and then after that we kind of argued for a minute, and then I left.
I was texting with your brother, and he seemed a little heated up, and it's good to know that we agree. And he says, "Well, it sounds like she'll be getting out shortly." And he's being polite with me because we don't know each other. And I
Yeah.
said, "Well, tell your friend to put her in the fucking car and immediately drive home." And of course, he obviously agrees with what
Yeah.
I said. That would have been that was the wise thing to do. I'm curious, knowing the kind of personality you are. You got a bunch of people in this detention center. Did you spend any time talking to other people, build some kind of relationship? No doubt you got a fucking pen pal out of this, probably.
Well, they have this thing that they do. So when they see Americans come in there, they will like write like little messages and stuff on like pieces of paper to ask that you try to like, call certain people for them or relay certain messages for them. So that's
Yeah.
like when you're first like in there, they're kind of like, I don't want to say swarming you a little bit, but like they're all like pushed up on you like that because they each want to like get a message out or they want to write something on a piece of paper for you to give to somebody. Like as soon as you get in there and they realize like you're an American and they're like, well, she's probably not going to be in here that long. That's like the number one thing they try to like hound you really quickly to try to get that, get like a message out to their family and stuff like that. But that was kind of crazy. Some of the girls in there, they were just kind of like young. Um, and so they were like scared. They were like be crying like all the time. They just cried all the time. They'll say, hey, they took me when I was with my little brother, or they took me when I was with my dad. So like they know their dad was taken and they were taken, but they don't know what happened to anybody else. Like they're confused. So you're in here, you by yourself, and you've been separated from your family. You have no idea what's going on. So that could be pretty hard on, somebody. I say kids, but I mean somebody in their 20s or something like that. It
Yeah.
can just imagine how hard that would be for them, but they would just be upset, crying all the time. And then other women would be trying to comfort them and let them know that it's going to be okay. And I'm sitting there like, I don't know if it's going to be okay. Like, how the heck do you get over some crap like this? But you just try to stay optimistic and, try not to be negative when you're in there. But I think like the hardest part is like when you come in there, they know that you're going to leave. You know you're going to leave, but at the same time, you know that they're not. And so it's really, really hard to just kind of like leave them sitting in there, knowing what they're going through. That's pretty hard to just kind of like leave.
As you
That's
said,
crazy.
before you got out, they put you in a room with some politicians or something to question you before they let you go. Did you feel like these people questioning you were from the ICE side or from the outside trying to figure out ICE?
These is like detectives and like elected people, officials, like in that state. Those are the people.
Did you feel like they were working for you or against you?
I don't know what their motive was because they weren't really surprised by some of the stuff that I was telling them. They're just kind of like, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. But maybe it could have been a poker face.
Uh,
But then on the other hand, it's like if they're not surprised by hearing this, why aren't they doing more to fix the
Stop
situation?
it. Yeah.
One of the things like I kept telling them, like they knew like those evacuation zones or whatever they were and the curfews, they was just like, man, that's like everybody has that in common. And so I was telling them like these zones, those are like a setup. They're not marked anywhere. Everybody in the van was like getting caught up in one of these stupid zones with a curfew. Like this is how they're setting up people to get arrested. Like it's a setup. And then when I woke up the next day and I saw that clip from CNN that even their own reporters were caught up in an evacuation zone, I was just like, oh, okay. So now they're putting LAPD in the evacuation zone instead of putting ICE in the evacuation zones. But then the crazy part about that is, okay, so now where's the ICE agents? Because
Yeah.
like it's not like they just went home once they left the evacuation zones. Like now where are they picking people up from? So that doesn't really solve the problem. And even when I saw CNN, when reporters were getting handcuffed, I'm like, that's LAPD. So they know that they're pressed. Why are they handcuffing them? It's just, it's really weird. I
Or
think
they
one
were
day
they
when
t-
it come out, it's going to make sense. But right now, it just some of it just doesn't make sense. I don't
were
get.
they taken aback when they brought you in to question you? Because clearly you would be different than most people. You're not going to be this crying, weeping young woman who doesn't know what's going on. They're bringing in basically a cross between Angela Davis and fucking Harriet Tubman. You know, they bring her in, and they're asking questions, and you're not quite as shy about talking about your rights and all that sort of stuff. They had to look at you kind of weird. They go, "Oh, this may have been the wrong one to fucking get."
Um, I think that this is something that I realized is like there's kind of like no matter like your skin color or any of that, it's kind of like this arrogance that as Americans like we have. You know what I mean? Like we can see something being bad and we can know that it's bad, but sometimes we're just kind of like we know we're gonna be all right, or like maybe it's not gonna be as bad. And I think that's what my mindset was. Like I didn't think that it would be as bad as it was. And I didn't doubt that I would leave. I just didn't know how long it was gonna be until I
Uh,
left. So I don't think I was as traumatized as the other women in there who genuinely did not know that. Like they just didn't know when they were going to leave. They didn't know if they left where they were going to end up or anything like that. So I think maybe when it comes to like Americans and them questioning us, I think that maybe they were kind of used to us not being as traumatized as other people. But I don't want to speak for the other people that got released because I'm pretty sure they were traumatized too, especially when the one girl, she was just like every freaking time they come in here and they start pointing at people, I think that they're gonna like make me go in there and take my clothes off. And I told her, I was like, I'm pretty sure they're not gonna do that to us when they know that we're Americans. Like it's so it's so fucked up to think that they know that they can treat those girls and those women any way that they want to, and there's no consequences, there's no repercussions for that. But if they would do that to like American citizens, they would catch some heat for it. So I was just telling her, like, I wouldn't worry about that if I was you. As jacked up as it is, I think that they're only doing it to them. And that's exactly what it was. They wasn't doing that to us, they were just doing that to them,
doing
which is
what bullies
crazy.
do, going after the weaker people and doing whatever the fuck they want. Now, when you're in being questioned, you're basically being debriefed as to what your experience in this thing was, right? They
You know,
wanted to
that's what
know.
my brother said. He's like, "Oh, they debriefed you?" I was like, "I thought I was asking questions." Yeah, that's what he said.
You okay? You were debriefed, and then after they talked to you about it, they said, "Yeah, you probably don't want to talk about it." Do you think they were genuinely worried about your safety, or did they just not want you to talk about it?
They wasn't worried about my safety at all. They
Okay.
wasn't worried about none of our safety at all because y'all know exactly what's going on and you're not doing anything to stop it. So I'm pretty sure that they thinking like, hey, we could just shut them up because we know how crazy MAGA is. Or especially if you live in LA, you probably don't want to have to deal with the LAPD like that. So I don't think they was worried about my safety. I think they were just kind of just trying to tell me to shut up in like a diplomatic type of way. But I don't have those same stressors that other people would have there. You know, like if I lived in LA, I probably would think about it a little bit differently, but or knowing me, I'd probably still be talking, so never mind. But I don't think that they're going to be able to make everybody stay quiet about that. Um,
Well, and see, that's the problem with this whole Trump administration. That's what they do. They do egregious shit, and then they threaten to hurt them or dox them or
mhm,
whatever to keep them shut up. The only way to shut these fuckers down is to expose what they do. And if some
yeah,
MAGA is listening to this show and you have a problem with us putting out this information, don't worry about Old Soul. Come fuck with me. I would love to have you do that because the only way to fight a bully is to knock them on their ass. And
yeah.
that's what we need to do. That's the problem that with the Democrats all this time. Well, we'll just be nice. No, this is a fucking fight. Start punching.
I mean, it is because, like we were saying, like MAGA is bullies. They want
Yeah.
dissent. They want people to be quiet, right? But these are elected officials from like the Democrat side of it that's trying to say, you don't want to expose yourself, or you got to think about your family and your friends before you know what I mean? Like, these are congressional Democrats that's trying to tell you to shut up and that's trying to tell you to be quiet. You know what I mean? Like, they're both doing the same thing, probably for different reasons, but you know that this is going on, and the only thing that you could do is wait for somebody to get released and then question them for a couple of hours. You know what I mean? So it's
Right.
both sides that want you to be quiet about certain things. It's just
So
crazy.
you get out. Um, well, and I get the impression, you and I are similar in the sense where you usually keep your calm. I would imagine some people get arrested or get detained, and they're screaming and yelling and crying and going, "Take me to fucking jail!" That kind of shit, like on Bad Boys.
Yeah.
But I get the impression you were kind of cool about this whole thing the whole time. You kind of kept your wits about you.
Yeah, I felt it later when like we were heading back home and then it hit. I think that, it's like it's kind of like you're just like doing what you have to do to get through that moment. But then like when you get like a moment by yourself or a moment where you just feel like you safe and you can kind of like let your guard down, I think that's when it hit because I was kind of like upset on the way back home. But before that point, I was kind of okay. So I just figured out a way to kind of like, I don't know, just kind of like bury it, I guess. Which is crazy that I was able to do that because I didn't even think I could. I cry about everything. But yeah, that was kind of crazy that I could do that. I think maybe protesting and stuff and seeing some of the crap that I've seen is just kind of like train my mind how to just get through that moment and get to the next moment. But I don't know the women and the girls that's still in there. I couldn't even imagine no crap like that. There was like a woman who was like upset because her milk was drying up. She was like breastfeeding. And so her milk was drying up and she was just like having a hard time with that part of it. And, of course you have to wonder who's feeding your baby at this point. This is kind of like random, the people that's in there. Like it's just random. Just
Yeah.
it's I don't know. Like where did the heck did they just but when you think about when you hear about people like disappearing off of the streets and you don't know where they're at, they're somewhere like that. So I was thinking like my first thing was like, oh, they probably, sent them to Venezuela or something, or they're in a concentration camp or something. Like that's where my mind went. I didn't realize until this experience, like, no, they still here in America. They just, put them in a building somewhere and
Yeah.
just cut them off from the outside world. So a lot of these people who are disappearing, they're in these buildings because I wouldn't have thought that there would be that many people in a building, especially when you hear like, oh, they arrested 100 people today or 40 people today. You wouldn't think that was that many, but when you put all of those people in one building, it's a lot of freaking people. It's a lot of people in there with no contact to the outside world at all whatsoever. You just in there. You just in a freaking building with a bunch of other people. You just in there. It's crazy to me that they could just do that.
Prior to this event, you obviously had a perspective or an opinion on what was going on with these ICE raids. Now that you've
Mm-hmm.
been through this experience, do you have a different perspective of? Do you feel? I mean, you're not going to feel better about it, but do you feel even more angry about it after going through this experience yourself?
I think it just depends on like the moment. Like I can just kind of like switch back and forth from being like sad and then just being pissed off like really, really quickly. Or if you think about like somebody in there, you like know what they sound like when they were crying, or you see how like scared they were in their faces, that type of stuff, you can that will make you sad. But then when you see that they're continually doing it, then you'll get angry. But then when you see people from our side that know what's going on and they're not doing anything about it, and that's enough to piss you the hell off. You know what I mean? Like if you see television and you see like one of these people giving a press conference and they're like talking about, like this isn't right, this is America, we got to do this, we got to do that, and behind the scenes like they're really not doing anything. But I don't know if they're not doing anything, but I guess I'm just confused about that part as to why ICE is allowed to do that with no oversight. I just I think that's it pisses me off, but it's confusing at the same time because it's like, well, what if they are doing something behind the scenes? You don't know that they're not doing anything. But then at the same time, you kind of feel like, well, they know what's going on. You need to do something now. Something should have been done yesterday. They're not moving quick enough. And I think maybe that could be the frustration. I think our side of it, from the Democrat side, that's the side that like confuses me the most because they know what's going on and nothing's been done yet. And these people are just in this freaking building. It's insane that they haven't done anything yet. I don't know how
Well,
I feel about it.
here's the thing. Since prior to the election during the campaign, Donald Trump does all these egregious things. We got court cases all along. People like you of me and said, well, maybe there's something going on behind the scenes and they'll rectify the situation. And what we
Yeah,
found out since all that time, there has been zero going on. So the idea that nothing's going on when these egregious acts are happening isn't surprising. I almost get the impression, and I feel the same way, I'm more pissed off about the Democrats
yeah,
not doing anything than the Republicans just behaving like we expect them to behave.
yeah. It's kind of like, I don't know, like I don't want to bring it to like a childish like analogy, but it's the only thing I can think about. Like if you're like at your dad's house for the weekend and he's just sitting there watching television and the kids are just like running around falling into walls and all this crazy crap and you just want to say like do something. Why the heck are you sitting here? Do something. That's kind of how I feel about that because I'm like they know what's going on. Why haven't they done anything? And then I have to like, I don't know, I guess lie to myself in a way to just like keep myself calm to say, well, they could be doing something. And of course, they're not going to tell anything because that, takes away the element of surprise or whatever. And then I also tell myself that, okay, so maybe it's because they're the feds, they have like, more authority than the states do. So maybe there really is nothing that they can do. Like I have to tell myself stuff like that to just kind of like stop myself from being like, pissed off 24 hours a day because the Democrat side of it is the side that's kind of like, I don't know, I feel the most conflicted emotions by that. I think Republicans are just freaking evil. Like that's
Uh,
not complicated at all. I don't have to guess or think. I was like, oh yeah, they're evil. They like cruelty. This is what they do. No conflict over there at all. How I feel about that. But the other side of it and nothing being done, that's the part that just keeps my emotions like going back and forth about that. I don't
yeah.
get it.
So all charges were dropped against you. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to go back there. Nothing.
This was the crazy part. I never had any charges. Like I never had any charges. Like I just didn't have any. I didn't know until I got out that when they picked me up for being in that zone past curfew or whatever, that I didn't even know LAPD was like, yeah, we're not going to charge anybody with that. And from my understanding, they were telling ICE like, oh, well, if we had them here at the precinct, we probably would like hold them for a few hours. And once everything died down, we just let them go. So there's like no need for us to like come pick her up or any of that stuff. No charges, never arrested, none of that stuff. Like they literally just picked us up and put us in the building and just kept us there. That was it. Like none of us had charges. None
Let
of
me
us
ask you
was arrested.
this:
We were
when
just,
you were on the on in the van or in the detention center,
yeah,
did you see any white people that were being detained, or were they all black and brown people?
we were all black and brown people. We're all black and brown people. Now I have
But they're not
seen,
racist. They're not racist.
yeah,
Fuck
I've
them.
seen those clips online where um they're being like brutalized just as like physically assaulted. But what I did notice is like they're being physically assaulted, but they're not being put in buildings. But I don't think that them being physically assaulted is like a joke because I did see that guy that the horses stomped. I saw that other guy who got shot in the head with one of those rubber
Yeah.
bullets. I seen another woman shot with that rubber bullet, and all of those people were white. The only thing was they didn't get put in a building like we did. So I think that's the difference. And I don't know what to make of that as far as like them being okay to be like assaulted physically versus them being basically kidnapped off of the streets. You know what I mean? I don't know why that difference is there. I don't know. I haven't unpacked a lot of this stuff, so I don't know what that means.
When you were there, was the National Guard there yet? I'm sure the Marines weren't there yet, but was the National Guard already there?
Yeah, they were already there when I went. I think that they were already there. And this is like one of the scary parts is like you can hear stuff going on outside. Like you can hear protests, you can hear like shots and all this crazy stuff. Like you can hear that type of stuff, right? And you don't know what the heck is going on. You don't like, are they gonna storm into this building? Is it gonna be a bomb that coming here? Because you're hearing all of this stuff, but you don't know what's going on outside. You just hear it. And that was just
Right.
kind of like it was crazy. It was really, really crazy. I think like when they put me in a van, I wasn't afraid. When I seen I was going into the detention center, I'm like, oh crap. I felt scared because I'm like, how long the heck am I going to be in here? So then when they told me I could leave, I was like, okay, yeah, I don't feel scared. But when they put me in that transport van for LAPD, I was like, got scared again. Like, where the heck are they taking me? Like, your
Yeah.
emotions are like back and forth. Like, it was really, you could hear it. You could definitely hear the people outside acting a damn fool, but you just didn't know what was going on. You could just hear it. I'm like, that's got to be torture. It's for people to be in here like days and days and days on end and hear that outside and don't know what's going on. And I was only in there for like a couple of days, and it was enough to make you just say, this is not any type of prison in America that I've ever been through. Like that's not American at all. Well, I guess it is American because it is happening in America. I guess I just wouldn't have expected them to just not give anybody any rights. Just put you in a building and you just in there.
And
That was it.
that's pretty appalling, and that's something that needs to be addressed. We need some people to stand up and fucking push back against this because this should not be happening in this country, whether it be to a citizen like yourself or even an immigrant, for fuck's sake. This should not be going on. I don't know if you heard about the situation with the National Guard. Donald Trump sends in the National Guard illegally. He does it
Yeah.
without coordination with Governor Gavin Newsom or the mayor. So Gavin Newsom sues him. It goes to Judge Breyer in San Francisco, and they say, and Judge Breyer basically sends back a decision that's just scathing against Donald Trump. This is and the Republicans. This is illegal. This is unconstitutional, and gave them till midnight on Friday to pull the people out. Well, of course, Donald Trump appeals it, and then they put a stay on that decision. So we don't know what's going to happen when they're going to take the National Guard out of there. Um, Presumably they will, because what he did in that situation was absolutely ridiculous and absolutely unconstitutional. Um, do you have any opinions on having the National Guard there? Frankly, the National Guard is only there for one reason, and that's to protect ICE. And what I always found weird is every time they go into a community,
Yeah.
ICE gets overrun by protesters. They run in a fucking building and lock the door and then call the police for help. That's what they do, these big, tough guys. And then the police come in and then they get more freedom to do what they want to do and pick people up like you. Um, I also saw that they even had video of a Marine or a couple of Marines questioning somebody on the street, which is not what they're supposed to be doing. They're
Mm-mm.
supposed to be there just to keep the peace. They can't do any police actions. They can't arrest anybody. Neither can the National Guard. You know, they would have had to, in order for the National Guard to actually do anything, they'd have to call for the Insurrection Act, which he hasn't done. Did you notice that at all, that these people were going outside the boundaries of what they were supposed to be doing?
I don't know what I mean, like, I know they were
They
there.
got you pretty quick.
Yeah, it's like I wasn't there long enough to notice that that's what they were doing. Like I literally stopped to get gas and then that's it. Like I was disappeared off of the street. The only thing is like I always like my brother, like a lot of people they get along with their siblings, but like my brother, he really, really is my friend. And like he knows like what my wishes are and stuff like that. And then I always like tell my attorney where I'm gonna be. So I just, shot my attorney a message and then I told the girls, I was just like, hey, I gotta go and do this. But I'll be back. You know what I mean? Like I'm just going to California. I'm gonna fill up my tank and I'm gonna come right back home. Not a problem. But I wasn't there long enough. Like as soon as I got there to get gas, like I was disappeared off of the street. I think I really would have been disappeared for real if I hadn't texted my attorney and then if I hadn't told the girls because for whatever reason, I didn't even think to like text my brother or maybe subconsciously I knew that if I text him, he would have like, you know, told me not to, or maybe he would have made me take him with him or something. But it just seemed like something quick. You know what I mean? I'm just gonna go here, I'm gonna come back and that's gonna be it. But I wasn't there long enough to know.
What were you going to do? Why were you there? What were you going to do?
So I don't know if you I think I might have said this before when we did that TikTok live about minority women needing to get midwives because they are going to be like handcuffing and waiting for pregnant women in hospitals. And so that has started to happen. And so Nevada was supposed to be a sanctuary city. California was supposed to be a sanctuary city. So we had some pregnant women in California, like heavily pregnant women who just like, no, they can't give birth in California because we don't know what's going to happen. Like, yeah, they can have a midwife, but if they need to go to the hospital, they're going to be separated from their babies. And so I went to like get them out of California. And so when I stopped to get gas, like I was literally on my way to pick them up and just like, okay, we need to move them. And that's what I was doing when I got there. I was so happy that I didn't pick them up and then get gas. I was so happy. Like I was so, as jacked up as this is. Like when I got in the van, I was thinking to myself, well, at least I didn't have the women in the car with me. Like that was the one thing that was positive when I got in that van. And I was like, because I don't know how I would um, pick them up, have them with me, and then have to leave them in there. That would have
Well,
messed
that's a
my
good
mind
point.
up, like for real. But
Now, would they be? Yeah, we got to clarify what's going on here because I think your brother told me these two women that you were going to pick up, they were Cuban or something. They
there
weren't.
was
They were Hispanic.
Yeah, there was women before that went from Florida to California. Those two women were Cuban. These two women that I went to go pick up, those were Hispanic women, but they didn't have. Well, one of them didn't have like her papers with her. The other one did, but she still didn't feel safe, like in a hospital. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
rightfully so, because I've heard that they were like at hospitals just waiting for women to give birth so they can take their babies.
If you had those two women very pregnant in the car with you when you got taken, they would have been taken too, pregnant
Yeah,
as they are, and
yeah,
because they are brown skin and not necessarily from America, they
yeah,
could still be in there right now.
yeah. That was the only like seriously when I got in there, I sat down in the van and I was like at least I didn't have them with me. Like that was like the
Yeah.
one thing that I could say was like a positive out of that because I was gonna have to stop and get gas either way, and I was just kind of happy I made that decision.
Wow.
I
That
think
that
I
that
found
that if there's anything lucky about it, that would have been lucky.
yeah, that was the one lucky thing. I did see that Trump was saying that he's making exemptions for farm, farm workers and hospitality workers that, they're not going to have them rated or picked up. But he didn't say anything else about the other people that they're picking up. They are literally taking children out of their foster homes into custody. They are waiting outside of churches, schools, graduations. Like there's hospitals with women, you know what I mean? So it's just kind of like when people say, he's backing up, like he was playing with the wrong people's money, basically. So his donors and big ag and all of those people, they're like, hey, we need our workers here. I live in Vegas, and I can tell you right now, without immigrants here, these hotels shut down. So when you have
Yeah.
people like that, that's telling him like, hey, you messing with our people, you can't do that. So the people with the big money and these types of industries, he's not gonna mess with them. But he didn't say nothing about not going into schools anymore. He didn't say anything about not going into foster care and taking those children. A lot of people don't know this, but if there's an immigrant child here with no parents, Nine times out of 10, they're being trafficked either for labor or physical trafficked. And he didn't say anything about women in hospitals either. He just said, hey, these people donated money to my campaign. They got a lot of money. I'm not going to mess with their people. But the rest of y'all, we still coming for you.
Let's
That's
just
basically
clarify.
what,
Let's clarify what he said. He came out and said, "Yeah, apparently these farm workers and these leisure workers or hospitality workers,
mm,
um, they're 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 losing these employees. They're in a tough situation. They're losing their employees, and they can't replace the employees. We got to do something about that." And I said, well, how about just not do something so you don't even have to fucking deal with it? So he
yeah,
said, we got to do something about it. He didn't say anything about exempting them. And here's what we know about Donald Trump. He says a lot to make himself look good, but he has no
yeah,
substance. Will he actually do that? Is he just trying to appease the people that are obviously ringing his phone off the hook, the farmers and the hospitality business, which is weird because the motherfucker owns a hotel or a bunch of hotels. This is news to him. This is news that immigrants were a part of that business pretty in depth. So just because he said it, I think he's just trying to appease somebody. But Donald Trump doesn't get a lot done. So I wouldn't be surprised if he still doesn't do anything about it. He'll just say, well, I said, and then somebody else is supposed to handle it, and it didn't get done. I wouldn't feel comfortable if I was a farmer or in the hospitality business that Donald
mhm,
Trump is actually going to do something. And let's be honest, where do most immigrants work? Farms
yeah.
and the hospitality business. So if you're going to give them an exemption, you're basically giving the majority of the people an exemption anyway. So the whole deportation thing is fucking stupid.
I don't even know if it's up to Donald Trump at this point. I really
No, I
don't.
don't either.
I
I
don't
don't
think
think
he
so.
knows half of what's going on. I know that with this racist crap, especially with immigration, this got Stephen Miller's hands all over it. I I did not know how deep this went for him. It's weird because his wife was an immigrant. It's weird. But anyway,
His
um,
grandfather was an immigrant and he
when
got
I
kicked out of the country.
yeah, when I saw at his he was running for like class something or whatever, and he was giving a speech. He was targeting the janitors in the school. And he was like saying all this evil, hateful stuff about the janitors in the school. And he was like a kid at that point. And so I was like,
Yeah.
oh, okay, he came out the womb crazy. Like I
Yeah.
just didn't know it was like that. And I don't understand how you have somebody like that around Donald Trump. And then all of a sudden, we're just going to stop with the immigration raids. That's just not going to happen. The I don't know how they're getting away with this at all. And it's insane to me that they are allowed to do it. It baffles my brain that they are allowed to do it.
People will say to me, "You won't admit you're wrong," and I'll admit where I'm wrong here. I said this to you and everybody else that yeah, he got elected, but the Republicans won't allow it to go too far.
Yeah,
And clearly, I was wrong because it's gone too far with the tariffs, with the deportations, with the racism, the misogyny. It's gone too far. And I don't know what the fucking deal is with the Republicans because it's too late for them to step back. Even if they
yeah.
shut him down tomorrow, they're going to carry the stink of Donald Trump for the remainder of their careers.
I remember thinking that, oh yeah, I'm gonna give Donald Trump like 60 to 90 days. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Like, you know, they paid for JD Vance to have that slot. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know if they're gonna say, hey, we're gonna pardon you for all the crap that you did. We're gonna let JD take over. Like, that's what I was thinking. And I remember saying, oh crap, this is gonna be crazy because we don't know who JD is gonna pick for to be vice president. And I had all these like, but I'm like, they got the House, the Senate, the White House. Donald Trump is too incompetent. They're gonna put somebody in there that can get stuff done. I had no idea, none, that they would just go along with this without like, they don't even blink. I even heard like Speaker Johnson, this is little puke, like sitting there talking about tarring and feathering somebody. When did you grow balls? It is just like insane to me that they just well, actually, I get what he has on Mike Johnson because a lot of people don't know who he shacks up with in DC, but the person that he lives with is like a billionaire, and his neighbors was saying like how he come and answer the door in his panties and stuff, right? And he's some kind of like evangelical pastor or whatever he is, but that's who Mike Johnson lives with when he's in DC. So I can only imagine the dirt that they have on him. But
Oh
he
yeah.
doesn't even try to like, it's not like he is just like silently agreeing and going along with Trump. Like he is out there in front of microphones, straight up talking trash, like reckless about the mouth. Like
Yeah.
I did not expect for him to just kind of like be feeling himself the way that he's feeling himself right now. I thought he would be just like a little puke in the corner, just going along with everything. I thought the same thing about Marco Rubio. I was like, you know what, he's gonna be a flunky, a yes man. He's just gonna go along with it. But then I see him having press conferences telling people if you come here for the soccer match, have your papers on you. After the match, you got to go back home and all this stuff. Like, when did they get so big and bad to where they are talking trash? Like
Yeah.
they're feeling themselves right now.
If I was FIFA, I'd pull that fucking uh, World Cup match out of there. I would,
I would
because it's
too.
just going to be horrible. I don't know if
I
they
would.
can at this late stage, but I would definitely do that. Well, at least you're in good company. We had this other situation where um, Kristi Noem is having the press conference in the Glendale Government Center in California. U.S. Senator Alex Padilla comes in and he wants to ask a question. And of course, he's immediately grabbed by law enforcement and even the FBI, pushed out the door
Yeah.
into a hallway, put on his knees, put on his face, and handcuffed. Immediately after that happened, Christine Ohms said, some guy was running in here. He didn't identify himself. And then Mike Johnson comes on and he says it was a horrible situation. And then he says Padilla should be censored. They were flat out lying, and they didn't even understand that the full video of the full event is available and everybody's seen it. He certainly did identify him. He didn't charge the podium. It's all fucking ridiculous. And this is what Republicans do. They gaslight, they try to hoodwink people, and they try to keep pushing the lie. But I think that instance, the way it was on TV everywhere, and
Mhm.
they're proven to be liars, this may be a big fuck up for the Republicans because they're going to be hard pressed to twist that or divert from it.
They'll try. First of all,
Oh, they'll try.
Christy Nome has immigrants working on her farm. So if she want to talk about rounding somebody up, all she got to do is walk in her backyard. That's the first part about it. Chris Rock closed down his restaurant for a day because he didn't want the immigrants in his kitchen being
Kid Rock,
rounded.
Kid Rock.
Why? Kid Rock, yeah, I said Chris Rock. Jesus, Kid Rock. So they all, and then I mean, look at Trump. All of his hotels, that's how they ran. They want to take from other people and put them to a different standard than they willing to do themselves. But I honestly, when I see them just like blatantly lying, in fairness though, when she showed that video on Fox News, she was lying, but Fox News played the video without the audio. So the people
Right.
who was listening to her talk, they were seeing the video, but they were not hearing him say
Right.
to him, identify himself, right? So they didn't hear that part. But when I see them blatantly lying about something that we see with our own eyes and we hear with our own ears, and they are telling us, you didn't see that, you didn't hear that. I don't care if it is on tape. That's not what happened. I'm not surprised by that in the least. If
Yeah.
you can sit here and have a whole insurrection on the Capitol, and then you can sit here and you can tell people with a straight face, I mean, for years, on top of years, that that didn't happen, that nobody was assaulted, that Ashley Babbitt wasn't doing anything when she got murdered. Like, when you can sit there and you can tell people that, and you have a segment of the population that's like, yeah, yeah, you know what, I must be I don't know. I must have dreamed about what I saw because what you telling me is different, and I'm gonna believe what you telling me. I'm not surprised at all when they come out here and lie about something that is blatantly obvious. And the reason is because their voters don't care about being lied to. And I would even go as far as to say their voters get pissed off when they don't lie to them.
Yeah.
When RFK came out and said, hey, you know what, maybe that measles vaccine, we need to start using that again because, children are dying. They got pissed off with him for saying that we could stop kids from dying if we got them immunized. So it's like, it's at a point now to where if you don't lie to them and tell them what they want to hear, they get pissed off. So the Republican Party, like they literally have to lie to these people because when they don't lie to them, they get mad that they're not being lied to. So they have to do that. I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised
What
at all.
with what you've seen being in detention, what you've seen in Los Angeles with the protests, and now what we see on TV and how it's kind of gone off the rails, do you get the sense that violence is inevitable at some point? And I don't mean necessarily huge numbers of people fighting in the streets, but there could be some more surgical type things. I mean, when you start to piss off as many people as you've done, like for example, Israel bombs Iran.
Mhm.
Iran already had a contract on Donald Trump. Donald Trump says, I didn't know anything about it. And Israel comes out and says, yeah, you did. Yeah, you
Yeah,
did. You're even helping us. You do that, you see the things and the way people are treated in Los Angeles and Boston and Minneapolis, whatever. This is going to piss off some people, and it's going to piss off some crazy people or people that just don't give a fuck anymore. It's inevitable to me that there's going to be some kind of violence, some kind of tragedy occur. And they've just taken it too far and pissed off and scared too many people. When you scare people enough and they're in a corner, they'll fucking do anything.
I think that violence is a natural outcome
Yeah.
because Donald Trump is over here playing with these foreign dictators, seriously, and he has no idea who he's playing with or nothing like that. And
Yeah.
at the same time, he is weakening our military around the world. Um, in addition to that, what he's doing domestically. And so I think part of the problem with him, and just the Republican Party in general, is they feel like what they are allowed to do here domestically, that they can just go and do that anywhere else in the world that they feel like it. And that's the
Yeah.
problem when you don't push back on these people and you don't say, hey, you're not going to do that. And if you're trying to do that, we're just going to have to get you up out of here because that's not going to fly. When you allow them to get away with that, they really do believe that they are the biggest, baddest bullies on the planet, but they have no idea what they're going up against. And Donald Trump's greed is going to be one of the things that creates the violence because he is allowing people unvetted, unchecked to just buy their way into this country. And these are people from countries that he is pissing off. These are people from countries who kidnap children, strap bombs onto these kidnapped children, and send them to go and blow up a building or a car or a person or whoever. These are the people, like, he is not dealing with these people. He is playing with these people. And these people do not like to get played with. And I don't understand why the Republican Party is not telling him, A, it's not cool for you to play with those people like that. But B, you can't play with those people at like that and at the same time let them in the country.
Yeah.
And at the same time, where you are taking our military and you are weakening it. Like right now, how much equipment and servicemen and women is he about to have in DC? How vulnerable are we, especially on the cybersecurity front? Because all the checks and balances that we had on Russia, he went ahead and lifted all of that. And then
Yeah.
we've already seen that Iran is saying, oh, okay, America, you want to participate in this? You are going to pay for what Israel just did. He is putting us in the middle of a war that just did not have to be. He is, and he's I, he doesn't recognize the seriousness of it, and I get that. But the people around him They recognize the seriousness of it. They know how dangerous it is. And they're just like, well, you know what? I don't want to risk not getting reelected. I don't want to risk Donald Trump sending out a mean tweet about me. I don't want to have to risk about getting a threatening phone call. Okay, so you're just going to allow terrorist attacks to start happening in America? Because that's what's getting ready to happen. Look at the people he's letting in here. You letting the cartel in here? That's crazy. You letting people from terrorists from the Middle East in here? That's crazy. You got a plane sitting in here that has not been checked for devices, security, none of that stuff. It's just that could be a big ass bomb just sitting there and we won't even know it.
Right.
And he's just completely fine with that. And the crazy part about it is, I get it. He's slow. He's stupid. He has no idea what he's doing. But the people around him that's enabling it. And then I think that they assume at the end of the day that they're just going to be able to just put the blame on him or Elon or whoever. And I don't think that's going to fly. It's just crazy that they are allowing for him to do stuff that they know is just deadly. They know that is deadly.
I want to say something here so people understand. You're saying that Donald Trump is oblivious and he's not making the decisions. People around him are making the decisions, and that would
Mm-hmm.
maybe suggest that they're smart and they're just playing Donald Trump. All you have to do is look at the hearings with Pete Hegseth, with Marco Rubio, with all these. There's nobody around him that's smart. They're just coming out of their ass with stuff and they think they are smart and they're just doing stuff and they continue to fail. And then they
But see,
make excuses for the failures.
but here's the thing though. I don't think they smart. They think that they
No,
are smart. They
right.
think they know everything. They think they don't have to listen to experts. They think that they got this whole thing on lock when they don't. But the fact that they know that what he is doing is dangerous, they know what this can lead to, in particular Marco Rubio. He know damn well what this is about. He understands, he knows this, and he is just playing along with it. So he has people around him who understand the situation and they understand the gravity of the situation. They just don't care. And that is the
Yeah.
part that's the difference between the first administration and this administration, is because people, they did understand and they didn't want to push back on Trump, but at least they were like, you know what, I quit, I'm out. Or they would allow Trump to fire them on Twitter or whatever the heck it was that he wanted to do, but they didn't stay there and participate in it. These people are not only staying there and participating in it, but they egging it on, and they keep distracting him with stupid stuff like, oh yeah, we'll throw you a big parade. Why don't you focus on that and let us deal with this over here? And it's just, there's no way for this to end without violence. And I think that people are not concerned enough about the people who are buying their way into this country, and that Donald Trump is doing things like talking on his personal cell phone, which has been hacked, I don't know how many times, from China and
Yeah.
Russia. And we have no archives to keep track of these phone conversations or anything like that. There's nobody saying anything about the fact that Donald Trump has golfed every single weekend since he's been in office and holiday. But then all of a
Right.
sudden, no, I don't want to golf. I want to go to Camp Davis with my private cell phone, and nobody knows what the hell is going on and what we're doing.
You think they don't care or they're just cowards and somehow still afraid of Donald Trump? I don't know why you'd still be afraid of Donald Trump. He is a shell. He's not smart. His cognitive ability is diminished. Physically, he's not healthy. This guy's not long for this world. I don't know why people would still be afraid of him or that, you know, like I've talked about before. When Donald Trump acts like he doesn't know something, like for example, when this airs, it'll be Sunday. So no Kings protest and this alleged parade will already be behind us. So we don't know how that all went down, but I know the parade will be a shit show because Donald Trump will fuck it up. When
I mean,
somebody
the
asked him,
veterans was already tripping today.
what's that?
The veterans was already tripping today.
Yeah, the veterans, the veterans broke through some barriers and went and did a sit-in in front of the Capitol. I
Yeah.
saw the video. You sent me the video, and then I watched the video, and it wasn't a huge number of people, but it made an interesting I mean, it wasn't like January 6th and there was no violence. It was just veterans pissed off about how they're being treated. But
Mhm.
now I forgot what I was doing. But so we've got all these protests. But when Donald Trump was asked about all the protests that were coming up, he acted like this woman was lying to him, that he had no
Yeah.
idea that they were happening. And I
Mhm.
think, I've talked about it here before. I think these people around him just tell him what he wants to hear and don't tell him any of the facts because it wouldn't do any good anyway. It'll either just make him mad or he won't remember it.
I think that there are people around Trump who are legitimately afraid of him, but I think there's more people around him that are not afraid of him. I think that they understand, like, they all like sadistic, narcissistic a-holes, right? And
Mhm.
they understand how that mind works. And they understand, just like we do, how easy it is to manipulate Trump. So I don't think they are afraid of him. I think they are very comfortable nudging him in the directions that they want to nudge him in. Um, I think they just pulling the strings pretty much when it comes to him and certain things. I don't think that I think there's some that's afraid of him, but not that many. Like the press secretary, that that heifer, I think she does have some fear of Trump and the people around him. But I don't think there's too many people around him that's afraid. I think maybe Dr. Oz, RFK, um, maybe Pete Hegseth is a little afraid of Trump, but the rest of them, I don't think they're afraid of him at all. Not even the slightest. I don't even think Elon Musk is afraid of Trump, to be honest with you. I think that he was looking at his pockets and his money when he tried
Yeah.
to, try to walk back whatever it is that he was doing. But I don't put it beyond Elon Musk to be sliding money to different people and donors under the table. Like, he is that type of snake that will bite you before you even know he in the grass. And I think that's where he's coming from with it.
Well, a lot of people think the Elon Musk Donald Trump thing is over, and I don't think so. The reason I don't think so is because Donald Trump always has to have the last word and he never forgives anybody. So at some point, he's going to lose it a little bit and jab at Elon, and then Elon's a malignant narcissist, so he'll jab back and it will start up again. The one thing I
Yeah.
do like, Elon pretty much embarrassed him. And that is the worst thing you can do to a narcissist. And then Elon backs off, but then Gavin Newsom steps it up. Now, I don't know if
Yeah.
Gavin Newsom would be a good choice for president, but he understands what it takes to get at this motherfucker. And he and his social media team are hammering him every fucking day. And personally, that's why I think the Marines are there. Donald Trump, I'm going to scare you. Well, I'm not scared. Well, I'm going to scare you with something bigger. But he's got nothing left in Los Angeles to go. What's he going to send in? The fucking Air Force? No, he's not going to do that. But I give Gavin Newsom credit for continually going after him. This is the one thing Democrats should do. And other than Bernie Sanders and AOC or maybe Jasmine Crockett, no other
Yeah.
Democrat is saying jack shit. So even though I may not be a fan of Gavin Newsom right at this point, I want him to keep going. And then when that fades after the LA thing goes, we need another person hammering Donald Trump's masculinity, his intelligence, his patriotism, whatever. That what needs to be done to get that guy in a spiral and get him to crash.
Yeah, you know about Gavin Newsom. You know, my daughter, she's really, really good at reading body language. And she was looking at that press conference and she was just like, he's kind of like cocky and arrogant. You saw him when he was addressing the nation and he was like taking that fight to Trump. But she was
Yeah.
like, look at him. Like, he was walking back and forth. He could barely be still and contain himself. Like, he just kept moving and moving. And she was like, he is just it's taking everything in him to hide his anger and how pissed off he is. And she was like, there's a side of Gavin Newsom that we just don't see. And she was like, if he got pissed off, forget not wanting to be in the same room with him. You don't want to be in the same building with him.
Right.
And he kind of has a similar personality to Donald Trump, except for he's more articulate. He's like more
Yeah.
charismatic. Those are those kind of like narcissistic people where you could see yourself falling into his trap and you're like, dang, how the heck did I end up here? Where when it is Donald Trump, it's kind of obvious. But she did say one thing about him that I liked when she said is a lot of people worry the next Democrat president that get into office, if they want to do this kumbaya crap, like, okay, we need to come together as a nation, we need to work together, we need to do this, we need to do that. She was like, somebody like Gavin Newsom, we would not have to worry about him being in office and giving Trump a pardon or saying we need to, work
Right.
together for the great good of the country. She said that would never happen with somebody like that. And she says she think he put on a professional face to the camera, like we have laws and order, and I'm gonna let our, AG do their thing. She was like, but he would be behind the scenes reveling in it, if not pushing his DOJ to lock him up. And she was just like, he's scary, he's slimy. You can't really trust him like that. But she does think that his image and his reputation means a lot to him. And so when he does things, he will do good things for the people, but he won't necessarily be doing it because it's the best thing that's for us. He will be doing it because he would want to be hailed as like the savior or the hero of the people that came in after Trump and his administration and just, propped everything up and made everything all great and beautiful again. It's kind of like, Biden really wanted to fight for the people. You are not going to get that from Newsom. Like, he would fight for us and he would do good for us, but he would do it to make himself like propped up, like,
Right.
one of the best presidents and whatever. That was kind of interesting. And now I watched it again and I'm like, oh yeah, he is kind of like pacing back and forth. And he is kind of fuming. And the scary part about it is if you have someone who can be that angry and contain it at the same time, like that's probably somebody that you don't want to play with. And the fact that he is pissing Donald Trump off, I feel like when those two collide, that might be a pay-per-view worth watching. I think
Yeah.
this will be
Well,
weird, but
well,
I
your
don't
daughter
think
makes it.
recognizes that there is someone else who is narcissistic but smooth with it. I don't think he sees that fire that he's playing with. He should probably not do that.
I think your daughter makes a good point, and I've always said that in this last election, they will say, "Well, I don't like Kamala because of this," or "I don't like Kamala because of that." I go, "That doesn't matter. That doesn't matter because you're not going to get everything you want. But here's the deal: if you vote for Kamala, you may not get everything you want now, but at least that opportunity is there down the road. Take it
Yeah,
slowly, get what you want a little bit, and then get more, then get more. If you go to Donald Trump, you're never getting your shit. So
yeah,
don't be so caught up in I want everything right now. Get caught up in at least getting on the right path where you have a chance of getting what you want. And that's what Gavin Newsom would be. I don't know. He'd be the, whether he'd be the best president or whether he would serve us well, but at least he'd put us on the right path and he would
yeah.
be kind of a warrior, which is what we
Mhm.
need now. I mean, I look at somebody like Tim Walz and I think Tim Walz is a good guy and I think he's strong and he speaks out, but he doesn't have that presence to be tough. Now, I did see J.B. Pritzker in a hearing, and
Oh,
people were trying to talk over him, and he wasn't having it. So Pritzker might be a likely prospect too, and I think he's a little better human than Gavin Newsom at this point.
yeah. I think that, part of Biden's downfall, and I think it was just like him being humble and his humility and the way that, you know what I mean? He was just kind of like this quiet strength with a steady hand that was inching us and getting us to where we needed to be. But I don't think that that's going to fly
No, it's not.
in this current political climate. Um, like I have issues with Gavin Newsom. Trust me, the way that he polices the homelessness population in California, the way that he came out and was, talking about the protesters that got out of hand. When we have video on top of video on top of video of your police officers assaulting people, you need to come out and you need to denounce that crap too. And they also need to be held accountable. So I have Don't get me started on that man. But I think that his cockiness and his confidence that he has, and not only that, but he's not somebody that's just kind of like sitting back and waiting to react to the crap that's going on. He is like getting out in front of it. And he is like, he's not punching back. He's like swinging first. And I think that's what a lot of people want to see. They want to see somebody stand up. They want to see somebody fight. They want to see somebody say stuff to Donald Trump that we want to say, but nobody is saying it. They want to see like the governor of Arkansas, I can't remember what the hell her name is, Huckabee Sanders,
Huckabee
right?
Sanders, yeah.
And was talking about how bad California is. And he just posted right under there, yeah, Arkansas is literally 50% more crime than California. So like clap backing, but also doing it with facts as well. So you educating at the same time. That's what people want to see. When he did that, like he's arrogant enough to address the nation, and you're a freaking governor of California, and he came out, he called Donald Trump to his face. The crap that he said about Mike Johnson, he wants to tar and feather me. Yeah, that's a real Christian. Like stuff like that we want to say. So he knows how to speak our language. He knows how to take the fight to Trump. And that's what people want to see. And at the same time, call out the hypocrisy of Huckabee Sanders, of Mike Johnson. Like call that hypocrisy out. We all see it, but nobody is saying anything about it. And so it's just kind of like this fight that they picked with Newsom was kind of like a bad move on their part, because we were pissed off like, oh no, he's not having Charlie Kirk on his podcast. I know he's not over here hanging out with the right wingers and all. Like we were really feeling like that. But when they started picking on him and he stood up and he was like, hey, don't pick on kids, pick up on me. I'm outside. You know where I'm at. If you want to come arrest me, bring it. I'm here. Ain't nobody hiding. And then you see the White House walking it back. So it's just kind of like they took his unpopularity and all of these mistakes that he was making. Most of the people just blew that out the window. They don't even pay attention to that anymore. They just see what he is doing right now today and they like it. And they are like putting him up as like, oh yeah, he's going to give the next, presidential run for their money. It's going to be Newsom. And like he has rebuilt his image because Donald Trump and his bag of goons came for his state. That is like the complete opposite of what they wanted to happen.
Well, it's a simple strategy. It's a simple strategy. I've said this before. If you're going to be talking to a Republican and you're a Democrat, you better be a fucking fighter. You better go after them, because if you don't, you're going to get shit. Also, I'm going to wrap things up for the Rational Boomer podcast. Thanks for coming on. I'm sorry you went through all that you went through, but I'm glad we had a chance to talk about it so people understand what's truly going on. I'm sorry you had to go through it.
Don't put yourself in a situation to where you would have to be in a detention center like that. Is hard. It's not fun. I mean, I'm happy that I didn't have the women in the car with me, but at the same time, that was horrible to not know how long you in there. You don't know if it's night, day, whatever. Like people come in, you have to say, was it light outside? What time was it when they picked you up? Like, because you just don't know. They just have you in the building. They're not feeding people. They're not giving people medication. You're getting warm tap water in a water jug. Democrats, they know what's going on. They've been like, when we come up out of there and they are debriefing us or asking us questions, they know what's going on in there. And for one reason or other, I don't know what that reason is, but there's nothing that's being done about it. And it's been people like me that's been in there for a couple of days, but there's also been Americans in there that's been in there for like a week. I think I've heard the longest is like 2 weeks in there. Think about 2 weeks, you haven't been to work. Your children haven't seen you, haven't been around you, like no clue of this day or night. And they are in there for 2 weeks. I think I was lucky for those couple of days, but don't put yourself in a situation to where you are getting detained and put in a detention center. I don't even know how to stress that enough. You do not want to be in a place like that. Trust me, I take jail and prison, but that right there, that's inhumane and cruel. And I think that's the point.
All right. Yeah, absolutely. Well, hopefully we'll be able to get you back on next week. We'll talk about how things are going at that point. For those listening, thank you for taking the time to do that. I hope you have a great day, and we will talk to you again tomorrow.